Hello everyone, hope you're doing all right. This is just me going over some of these practice problems from the Working with Excel chapter of the textbook. This chapter is going to use a library called Openpyxl. I've also heard it pronounced Openpyxl. I'm actually not sure what the correct pronunciation is or if there is one. But that is going to require us installing a library or package from the internet through pip. So we're going to go over that in this video. And then I'm going to have separate videos for each one of the extra practice problems that we have through here, just showing off a few of the things we can do with this package. But this first one, we're just going to open up here where I'm just going to go over how to install packages or libraries from the internet. So let's start by opening up a new terminal window. And if you run this file right here, if you don't have Openpyxl already installed, if you were to run this, it wouldn't work. In fact, let me install Openpyxl. I'm going to uninstall this just so you can see what it would look like if you were to try and run this file. So if I try to run this file that's trying to import this library called Openpyxl, it's going to give me this error that says module not found error, no module named Openpyxl. So it can't find this, so our code isn't going to work. And that's because this library doesn't come with Python. It's something we have to actually download. So when you downloaded Python, or the Python interpreter, it also came with this tool called pip. It stands for pip installs packages. It's a recursive acronym, which is kind of silly, but Python is just like that. So you are going to either need to type in pip or pip3. It depends on if you had other versions of Python already installed before you started this. I need to do pip3, so I'm going to do... Or let me show you what it looks like if it doesn't work. Let me just say pip install Openpyxl. Okay, that might have worked, but if I run this is actually good. If this doesn't work, it'll let me talk about something. Okay, it actually did work. Let's do that. You might also need to do pip3 install Openpyxl. Okay, cool. So if you do one of those and you run this, and it says if this prints, that means you installed it correctly. That means you're good to go. You installed it correctly. If you run this and it's not working, what is likely the problem is that you installed Openpyxl to a version of Python, or you installed it to one version of Python, but you're trying to run your code in VS Code using a different version of Python. So if you're not sure if that might be the case, just try coming down here to this part of the screen, right down here. Mine says 3.12.5. You might have a different version of Python installed, like 3.13, 3.8, whatever it might be. And try choosing a different version of Python. You just want the version that you installed the new library to be match the version that you're actually running Python with, is the idea. So for this, I just installed it to 3.12. That seems to work fine. And that means I now have access to everything within this library. It's now installed on my version of Python. So with that, you are good to go. You can start working with these other practice problems. Really quick, just because it's related to installing things with pip, I'm going to jump ahead to this extra file and just talk about virtual environments really quick. So the idea behind this is that what we just did when we did pip install or pip3 install, pip install pyxl, we are installing this library to whatever version of Python that we're running. And then any kind of, anytime we use, like for example, Python 3.12.5, anytime we use this version of Python on our computer, we will have access to this. That sometimes is what you want, but a lot of the times you don't want to just install something to the version of Python that everything uses. especially if you're installing multiple packages and let's say some of them get outdated as like years go by and some of the requirements change. If you want to just create a closed environment where you know exactly what version of Python you're using and exactly which versions of packages you're using so that it always works rather than you accidentally updating one package and then it not working after a while. The solution to that is creating what's called a virtual environment. And if you're using VS Code, they actually make it really easy. You can either just go to View Command Palette like this, or if you want to use a shortcut, you can hold the function key and just push F1, and it pops up there. This just lets you type in a lot of things, like a lot of stuff related to Git. There's stuff related to Python. But what we want to do is start typing out create. Oh, oops, I think I accidentally clicked Git and then it was doing a different one. Let's go back into here. Okay, so create environment. It's because I forgot to do that. So you need that there as the first thing, and then just type Python create environment. So you should see this option towards the top. You can either click it or push enter or return. When you do that, it's going to ask you to what kind of environment you want to create. We're just going to do a virtual environment right here. You might have Conda installed as well. That's a whole other thing that we can talk about later, but just do this virtual environment right here. And then what you're going to do is if you have multiple versions of Python installed, you're going to choose which one you want to create a copy of. I'm using 3.12, so I'm just going to use that one. I'll create a copy of that. You're going to see it says it's creating an environment right here, and you should be able to see a little folder right here that says .venv, like a virtual environment. And what actually happened is it created a copy of your Python 3.12 or whatever version you used. It created a copy of it within this virtual environment. And then you should close out of your any other open terminals and make sure that your terminal looks like this, where it says .venv, the virtual environment. That means you're now running off of the virtual environment of Python rather than the like the global version or any other version right there. So you can even see if I click down here, I now have access to this copy of 3.12.5, or I could just use the global version right there. So we're going to keep using this virtual environment, and right here we have some code. I could just run this, and because I'm using this virtual environment, it's saying it can't find the module for Openpyxl, right? So if I have the virtual environment selected, I can actually just do pip install Openpyxl. It's going to install it for me. And instead of installing it to the main 3.12.5, it actually just put it inside of my virtual environment. Let's see, it's probably in lib, right? Yeah. So you can see installed Openpyxl inside of my virtual environment. So anything that I want to install, it stays within here. And this would be the version of Python that I use when I'm working within this repository, within these set of files. Then if I'm working on a different project, I might make a different virtual environment and work with any packages or libraries that I want just for that project. So then each project has its own virtual environment that doesn't affect any other environment. It's just a way to keep libraries and packages neat, and that way if you update one, it doesn't affect every other past project that you work on. That's the idea behind it. That's actually more than you need to know for this class, actually, if you're watching this from taking my class. But it's a good thing to know about, good thing to put into practice. So you can do either way. If you install it to the global version, or if you create a virtual environment each time, you can do that as well. Either way works. So with that, we're going to jump into what we can actually do with Openpyxl in the next files over here. So thanks.